Good morning. Oh, please tell me that I'm not crackly, and please tell me that this is working okay. I was like on the fence about going live because I'm like, I don't want to start a live stream and have it get disrupted again and start all over. That's so frustrating. Hey, Lil Wing. Hey, Karma. Hi, Sarah. Hey, Aurora. Uh, Frank did a live stream yesterday about Hayden Manis. Aurora, do you want to go get the link for that live stream and put it in the chat so that we can share that out? Um, so if you don't know who Hayden Manis is, you should. I don't know why you don't. I've done 2 videos already. It's basically if you take the Harmony Montgomery case and you take the Quentin Simon case and you mash them together, that's the Hayden Manis case is going to be the end result of the mixing of those 2 together. He's missing. It's urgent. People need to pay attention. It's very frustrating. Um, so thank you. Let me pin, oh, maybe not. I have a couple of things before we start. Somebody had asked yesterday about the dates of the searches for summer. Sorry, I'm pinning this. Here we go. Does anybody just offhand have it written down anywhere by chance, the dates that the searches occurred? I know like the first big bulk happened obviously right afterwards, but then there was like another one in I think November of 21 and then another one at the end of February of 22. But then there was some private investigator searches in the middle there and some um oh my gosh, what's the name of that company? The Texas one. Oh my. EquiSearch comes in sometimes. I knew I was going to eventually get that. So if anybody has that already written out somewhere, please let me know because then I won't go and do it myself. I'm sure I do somewhere in all of my notes. EquiSearch. I know it was, when you're looking for a word and it's just like right there. So there's that. And Scott H found a video. We had talked about Jody Sue and whether or not she had ever indicated that the scream came from Summer 100%. Scott H provided a link for that. So let me see if I can fetch that real fast. It's pinned on that particular video, but I'll look for it anyways. Let me see. It wasn't from 4 days ago. Right there. Why are you not working? Now it says it's not working. That's interesting. Why doesn't crap, that's loud. So we will that answers that about that. Yep, sure enough, that's exactly what she says. I'm gonna pull that in. It's gonna be loud. At least it's loud for me. So I'm gonna mute and you turn your volume down, okay? I'm telling you right now, turn your volume down. So you don't especially if you're wearing earbuds or something. Here we go.
I don't know how to put it, but look, guys. So the day Summer went missing, my children and I heard her scream quite a while before she was reported missing. And I was first on the ground looking for her.
So that answers that. That answers that one. Did Jody Sue ever say that she heard specifically Summer screaming? She did. We just watched it. Just listened to it. So we've got that answer done. Thank you, Scott H. See, I like you guys being here because, if whether you're here in the chat like real time or you're on the replay, somebody seems to always know the answer for something that we might not know the answer for, which is nice. So how's everybody doing? It's really hot. It's sunny, but it's hot today. Hey, Jack of all trades. So I was frantically typing last night. I'm not done typing up all the grandma stuff because there's so much going on there. And I'm not done typing the Chris McDonough stuff because it's really hard to figure out how to do that with all of his interrupting and whatnot. But I did get the Pruitt stuff done because that's where we're going to be at. We're at Pruitt. And Dan Armstrong is coming up. And we already kind of talked about Dan Armstrong a little bit, statement analysis-y, a little bit before. And then we're going to have the 1 year mark that she's been missing. That's kind of on the agenda today. I have a lot of notes about Pruitt, like a lot. So I don't know how much we're going to get done, but there's 3 videos that Pruitt talks in. And I got to tell you, I went over the 3 of them countless times. And I don't know that my conclusion is going to be a popular opinion, but it is what it is. I did what I was supposed to do. It's science. I can't skew things just to make people happy. But I think that it's important to talk about it, especially the lead in to Dan Armstrong. So I'm going to let's see, how can we do this? We'll go through this first video and then we'll talk about the statements that he makes. So here we go.
Well, today, for the first time, we are learning the lead investigator in the Summer Wells case is speaking out. The pressure has been immense on the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office to figure out what happened to a little girl who reported missing back in June.
Ansley Daniel has been following this case closely. She has an update. Ansley?
Josh and Sarah, there was frustration, some anger, and the presence of a heavy burden when I sat down with the detective John Pruitt with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. He's led this investigation into Summer's disappearance. He told me that as difficult as this case is to work, he is nowhere near giving up.
It is a lot to shoulder, it's a lot to burden. We have a missing child that we haven't found yet.
Almost 10 months and so much heartache. And investigators aren't immune from that hurt. The question of what happened to Summer Wells still has no answer.
There haven't been very many cases like this. I have never worked a missing child case with all these different entities and agencies involved.
The lead investigator on the case says his days are devoted to finding her.
My day, I check tip line and voicemail when I first get here. I do phone calls and follow-ups on any credible leads I've got. I follow up on anything that I didn't get to a good conclusion the day before. Then I go into my normal caseload of any new cases I've got, follow-ups on them.
They've received nearly 2,000 tips.
I will follow up on everything I can to try to bring closure for this.
Self-proclaimed online investigators and social media sleuths have turned this case into a mess of ideas. And tips have come in from everywhere across the U.S. and even overseas. That help, Pruitt says, has led to little more than time wasted.
If these people want to help so much, we always accept applications to certified individuals.
He says the investigation has led to the continued thought that if Summer is found, it will be nearby.
I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by, because we found nothing to lead us to believe that she's been abducted or trafficked out of the area.
Pruitt works alongside the TBI and FBI. Along with the ground search, Pruitt says investigators have...
I'm going to pause this for just a minute because there's something that happens here, and I want to make sure that I write down the timestamp. I'm going to back it up for just a minute.
I believe that she always accept applications.
Instead.
If these people want to help so much, we always accept applications to certified individuals.
He says the investigation has led to the continued thought that if Summer is found, it will be nearby.
I believe
201. One thing that I right, Sarah caught it. Yeah. I have it written out. I wrote all of this down. I wrote every single thing he said down, and I analyzed every single sentence. It took a really, really, really long time, but we'll come back to that. What I notated that as was a, where's my notes? I made a mark of that one. A cognitive stumble was my final conclusion on that, was that it was a cognitive stumble. There's somebody cutting down a tree outside, and I'm really, really sorry if it's loud. The chainsaws are going. Cognitive stumble. We'll get there. One thing that I want, Jack says, I think he's mighty pompous. On the surface, it seems that way. I have seen this so many times, and I always had that vibe too, that he was like better than. But it wasn't until I wrote everything out, because everything changes when you actually see it in text. Everything is different. And so when we get done watching, there's 3 of these. When we get done watching the 3 of these, I'm going to tell you my results and my conclusions. I even double checked my stuff. I ran it to have it analyzed by AI, and it basically came to the same conclusions that I did. So it is what it is. But that stumble there, what he starts to say is, let me get down to that. I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by because we have found nothing to believe. And then he's like, oh crap, to lead us to believe. So he stops. I believe that she would have probably been somewhere close by because we have found nothing to believe to lead us to believe that she has been abducted or trafficked out of this area. So we'll come back to that one.
We always accept applications to certified individuals.
He says the investigation has led to the continued thought that if Summer is found, it will be nearby.
I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by, because we found nothing to lead us to believe that she's been abducted or trafficked out of the area.
Pruitt works alongside the TBI and FBI. Along with the ground search, Pruitt says investigators have poured through data. Almost a year into the case, and Detective Pruitt says it still remains a very active investigation.
I'm not going to let it go cold.
I'm going to pause for a minute, and then I combined all the statements from all the videos into one. It was just easier. One thing that I want to make a note of before we move on to the next one is the number of times that he sighs when he talks. He sighs a lot. The other thing I want to make a note of, and it's been a really long time since we've talked about this, but psychologically, there's certain things that people do that change the psychological tone of a conversation. And one of them is placing some big object in between the interviewer and the person being interviewed. So the example I always use is desks, because it's the easiest one. If you're interviewing someone and they're sitting behind their desk and they force you to sit on the opposite side of their desk, like you can't sit next to them on the side, like Brian Enton sat next to Ronnie Lawson. Usually he does, usually Ronnie Lawson has people off to the side, but there's no desk in the way here. The presence of the desk is an unconscious way to separate you from the person that you're talking to. And it's an intimidation factor. So whoever's on the side of the desk that you would sit on normally, it makes that person seem as though they're better than, in a way. Psychologically, there's the divide, and it makes the conversation not as personal. So when they're interviewing Pruitt, he's sitting right there talking to them. He doesn't have to sit behind a big desk like Dan Armstrong does. Just wanted to make a notation of that. Lil Wing says, I can feel his breath through the screen, right? He sighs so much. All right, so we're going to go to the next one. And like I say, there's one more after that. And then we'll come back.
Nearly 10 months and still no answers.
Tonight, News Channel 11 dives deeper into the disappearance of Hawkins County 6-year-old Summer Wells. For the first time, we have heard from the lead investigator with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office.
And tonight he tells us what this investigation looks like right now.
Josh and Sarah, the case of Summer Wells does not look much different today than what it did when I first reported live on authorities searching out in Beech Creek back in June of last year. Now, authorities are spending more time than ever before fielding through false tips as well as false hope.
It's sporadic. One day you might get 5 leads. The next couple of days you might not get anything. But it's been an active investigation that I've been devoted to since it first occurred.
As Summer's disappearance approaches the 10-month mark, the scenarios of what happened the night of June 15th continue to grow.
The wandering away, sneaking off, to go play or whatever she may have done, that is a viable option.
The night she went missing, authorities said she walked away from her house. The following day, an Amber Alert was issued.
People are probably tired of hearing this. All possibilities are on the table. We're not completely eliminating the abduction idea, but there's nothing to lead us to believe that we need to focus on that alone.
In the height of the search, those on the ground combed through miles of tough, rugged terrain, leaving many to wonder how there was no trace of little Summer.
She was like 3 foot, 40 pounds. It would be a lot easier for her to get through some of the foliage. She's lower to the ground, smaller body, a lot more flexible.
Along with the ground search, Pruitt says investigators have poured through data.
We have gone through reams and reams of data. We've collected statements. We've chased down every credible lead that has been given to us. And we are still not much further along than when we started. Surveillance videos, GPS locations, cell phone tracking, cell phone data, electronic data, anything that we could think of to get our hands on.
As time continues to pass since that June day, it's increasingly hard to hold on to hope.
Well, we're 9 months in. I would hope that she is still alive somewhere, but we also have to be open to the idea that that is no longer a possibility.
Pruitt says that he has never worked a case like this with so many different entities involved, and he says it's still baffling that it looks the same as it did that night that Summer was reported missing. Coming up tonight at 11, we learn more about Summer's family's relationship with law enforcement, especially as her father remains jailed and lawyers are now involved.
Karma says, okay, those kinds of comments make people not want to report. I know. I get that. I'm with you on that one, but there's more going on that might make that make sense than just the surface level. So we got one more, and then we'll.
Tonight, News Channel 11 dives deeper into the disappearance of Hawkins County 6-year-old Summer Wells. And for the first time, we're hearing from the lead investigator at the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office in charge of the case. Tonight, he tells us what the Wells family relationship with law enforcement looks like now, as Summer's father remains in jail and lawyers are involved.
In February, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson told News Channel 11 that the Wells family had lawyers and were no longer cooperating. The lead investigator for the case explained how that, as well as how her father's current stint in jail on unrelated charges, hasn't moved this case forward.
The family has attorneys involved, and that is not a direct line of communication.
That tone is quite the change from what it was last year when Summer was first reported missing.
It was pretty good. We would show up about every day, make sure that they were okay, and had a decent line of communication with them.
About a month later, in July, Child Protective Services removed her 3 older brothers from their home and appointed attorneys to the case.
They have been appointed for other instances, but it bleeds over into this investigation as well.
Summer Wells' father, Don, was arrested late last year for driving under the influence and violating probation.
Going off of that, obviously we know that Don Wells is incarcerated here. Does that play a role at all in this investigation?
No, ma'am.
On February 7th, a judge ordered him to serve the remainder of his 11 months and 29-day sentence in the Hawkins County Jail.
With Mr. Wells, he knows when he first came into the institution, he knows at any time he wants to talk to let their staff know, and I'll get to him as quick as I can.
But Pruitt hopes the Wells family knows, despite the other legal troubles, they can reach out anytime.
Communication between me and the family have changed, but I hope that they still understand that they can come talk to me at any time they want to.
You can find all of today's coverage from our interview.
Okay. She's so cute. So I'm going to pull you over because I typed all this out. Like I say, I typed it all out. We're going to start with what he just was talking about. See if I can make this bigger. There we go. So once again, the text that's in blue is the notes that for myself, so I don't forget. So the quote from him: "They have been appointed for other instances as the attorneys, right? They have been appointed for other instances, but it bleeds over into this investigation as well. The use of bleeds over, it's emotional. It's like it's not like he's like it extends into this. It implies unintended consequence, something that spills into and complicates another matter. Now, from a legal standpoint, not legal advice, just saying, other instances here likely refers to the juvenile dependency case, not Summer's disappearance directly. That means attorneys were not retained for criminal defense about Summer's case, at least initially, but for the DCS proceedings related to their remaining children. And I didn't know of this. I didn't know about this for some reason. I don't know why, but I never did a whole lot with this kind of situation. I did mostly like civil, like divorce stuff. So, when attorneys are involved, even for a separate but overlapping matter, law enforcement communication is restricted. If Dawn or Candace now have lawyers, whether they were retained or appointed, anything law enforcement wants to ask has to go through counsel. Anything. Even if they want to talk, even if Dawn and Candace want to talk, their attorneys might advise them not to. And that silence affects Summer's case. This is standard legal procedure, but for investigators, it often feels like a door slamming shut. Pruitt's frustration is not about the retention or the appointment of attorneys. It's about the restrictions and implications that come along with it. And then my question, this is my question. Does Dawn and Candace realize this? When Lawson says that they lawyered up, there may be some confusion. It's not necessarily that they retained criminal counsel. It's just the fact that there are lawyers involved and with regards to the boys. And when somebody has lawyers, apparently, in this particular kind of situation, if they wanted to talk about Summer, they're still restricted via the attorneys because it bleeds over. I was like, that's interesting. So when Ronnie says they've retained attorneys, he makes it sound like it's like a shady, like a criminal attorney, like Donna Candace like went out and hired a criminal defense attorney. But it doesn't have to be that way. If they got attorneys for the DCS case, it would still work the same as far as the limitations that would be in place, as far as law enforcement going to talk to Donna Candace. I think that my personal opinion is that Ronnie spinned it that way to make them look bad. And I also think that Donna Candace don't realize that that's what's going on. But this is what the legal stuff led me to. So we're going to start up here. And I tried to separate the statements. This is like a collective thing from all the videos we just watched. I tried to separate them and combine them into the topics that he's talking about. And again, the blue text is my notes. And I also included the notes from when I ran it that had the AI analyze it. So he says it was a lot. This is Pruitt. He says it's a lot to shoulder. It's a lot to burden. We have a missing child that we haven't found yet. He also says there haven't been very many cases like this. I have never worked a missing child case with all these different entities and agencies involved. And the third one I have here, it's sporadic as far as leads go. It's sporadic. One day you might get 5 leads. The next couple of days you might not get anything. But it's been an active investigation that's I've been devoted to since it first occurred. The word devoted is interesting. So if somebody says they're devoted to something, it's a personal word. It might indicate a genuine emotional connection to the case. Like if you're devoted to your partner or you're devoted to your job, there's some sort of connection other than that you're just doing the work. Do you get what I'm saying? As we're going to go through here, it's not going to necessarily be the popular opinion. I'm not going to say that I'm sorry. It is what it is. So this is from the AI. These 3 statements reveal a detective who feels the weight of the case, is navigating emotional, logistical, and institutional challenges, wants the public to understand that even when it seems quiet, the work continues, and is likely frustrated by the complexity and uneven momentum, but stays committed. It reads as an honest attempt to walk the line between professionalism and vulnerability, not performative grief, but a kind of quiet moral weight. Now, I want you to keep in mind the sighing, all of the sighing that he does, because it's going to play into this. So the next section, he's talking about all of his daily work and things. So he says, quote, "My day, I check tip line and voicemail when I first get here. I do phone calls and follow-ups on any credible leads I've got. I follow up on anything that I didn't get to a good conclusion the day before, and then I go into my normal caseload of any new cases I've got, follow-ups on them." The repetition of follow-up, because he says it 3 times, might signal a feeling of monotony or fatigue with the situation. Like, think of Groundhog Day, where you just reliving the same day over and over and over again, right? That exhaustion that would come from that. Obviously, he's working other cases, but he places that at the end. And if you guys remember when we've been talking about the thing from Mark McClish about who was mentioned first or what is mentioned first, I decided to type that out because I was kind of tired of reading it. So this right here is verbatim from my textbook from Mark McClish. "There is a reason why a person will mention one name before another name. Usually this means that the subject likes the person mentioned first better than the person he mentions second. Order is also important when mentioning other things in a statement. The subject is giving us additional information by the order he mentions things." So if you look back at this statement, look at the way that he orders this stuff. Hey, Birdie. He checks the tip line and the voicemail. He does the phone calls. He follow-ups on the leads. He follows up on anything that he didn't get done the day before. And then eventually in his sentence here, he eventually gets to this other stuff he does. So it's like summer, 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 and then everything else. So if we were going to apply statement analysis techniques to this with regards to what Mark McClish thinks, he's listed summer numerous times. And then as an afterthought, he's like, and then everything else I do. And then everything else. So then, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. It is what it is. We've got him talking about the data collection. He says surveillance videos, GPS locations, cell phone tracking, cell phone data, electronic data, anything that we can think of to get our hands on. Now he continues, "We have gone through reams and reams of data. We have collected statements. We've chased down every credible lead that's been given to us, and we are still not much further along than when we started." These quotes, these 3 things we just talked about, combine into a picture of a detective doing the work every day, steadily, a case that has been overwhelmed by that has overwhelmed the traditional playbook, and a man who's exhausted but not indifferent, still turning over stones even when they all look the same. Like I say, remember the combination of the sighing. Then it goes on, "There's no grandstanding, no 'we're close to a break' hype, just methodical, meticulous effort and the quiet grief of not having an answer. We may also be seeing a feeling of burnout, but still trying." And that, like I said, it goes back to the Groundhog Day example. Like it's over and over and over. Karma says, "I think he tried hard in the beginning. I just don't know anymore." But just think about if you were him and you had to deal with all this stuff going on, the social media stuff and the people calling you, telling you that they've got some lead, and then streaming your phone call on a live stream while you're trying to tell someone or talk to someone about private information about Summer's case, to find out that you're then being live streamed on YouTube. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure after so long, somebody would be like, "Ugh, not again," like, ugh, right? Or it says, "But he's specifically been interviewed about Summer's case. Wouldn't that also make him put Summer first?" Yes, but he didn't have to include like everything else. If he's asked about what if, what are you doing with regards to Summer's case, he's going to tell you, doesn't necessarily need to include everybody else. And he minimizes everybody else. He's like, and then I do everything else, like afterwards, like when I get around to it. He makes it a point to say that he follows back up on stuff from the day before with regards to her, but with nobody else. It's not like it was a broad statement. Like he consciously separates Summers' case from everybody else, if that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Lilwing says, I see both sides, which explains why I feel this breath through his screen. There is two sides. It's exactly what I was saying, that you're just going to have to work with me on this. Then he says, if these online sleuths, if these people wanted to help so much, we always accept applications to certified individuals. It is what it is. There was really nothing. He's obviously frustrated. On his commitment to the case, he says, I'm not going to let it go cold. I will follow up on everything I can to try and bring closure for this. So the thing that I noted the most about this, we've talked about this when we talked about Dawn. When Dawn says things like, we try to do right, we try to follow the church, we try to do everything we can to cooperate, we try to be good people. If you're trying to do something, it doesn't mean that you've completed or been successful. It just means you're trying. I tried to wash the car. I tried to get there on time and I didn't make it. I tried to do the laundry. Means that you attempted and you didn't complete it, you were unsuccessful. Versus I did the laundry. That means you did it and you were done. So he says, I will follow up on everything I can to try and bring closure for this. He won't just try. He's not saying I will try. He's saying I will. He will do this. And my opinion was that this could indicate a personal emotional promise, a quiet dedication, attempting to portray the image of a hardened investigator, like stone-faced, when in reality he's likely emotionally torn over the case. The duration, the length this is going, the time-wise, the lack of movement and success, he might be taking it personally. As a personal loss or defeat, he might be questioning his talents and his skills. There's probably an overall feeling of loneliness because he's the only one assigned to this. He's got to do all of this by himself. Hey, Elizabeth. And all of those things, he's just being very quiet about how he really feels. Just that overall exhaustion. And so if you think about it, if you've been dealing with this, because this is about 1 year later, if you've been dealing with this every day for a year and you're the only person assigned to this task and it's going nowhere, by 365 days of time dealing with all this other stuff from the outside and dealing with Dawn and Candace every day, I mean, you're going to get to the place where you're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. But like I say, I also feel like he might be taking it personal. Like, why can't I get this right? What's wrong with me? Like, I should be able to figure out what happened. I don't know why I can't. He might be beating himself up personally, like feeling like he's failing. So then it continues on. He's talking about the other theories and possibilities. One theory, or one statement, he says, she was like 3 foot and 40 pounds. It would be a lot easier for her to get through some of the foliage. She's lower to the ground, smaller body, a lot more flexible. This statement is really interesting because it's rational, it's concrete, it's not speculative. He's indicating that Summer's size was an advantage for her to move about, and it really logically, rationally strengthens the wondering theory. Excuse me. This tells us that he has thought about them. This part's from the AI. This tells us he has thought about the mechanics of wondering, not just the idea in abstract. This kind of detail tends to come from an investigator leaning towards a particular theory, even if they're publicly presenting neutrality. We're going to move here. The next statement. I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by because we have found nothing to believe. This is his stumble. We have found nothing to believe to lead us to believe that she has been abducted or trafficked out of the area. So if we take this little correction out of here, we'll remove this. What he was saying was, I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by because we have found nothing to believe that she has been abducted. It's a whole different sentence, a whole different thing. So I have a lot to say about this one. This first part, I believe. It's it's clear that he's making it clear that there's uncertainty. This is a belief. It's not a conclusion. Not like Don says, I know she was abducted, right? I know in my heart, I know it 100%. Like Don lays that out as a fact, hands down, nothing else is being considered. But here, Pruitt is like, I believe this, but I really have nothing. I can't give you something to substantiate that. It's just my belief, not a fact. It's not landed out as a fact. The cognitive stumble is interesting. Like we know, we found, we heard stuff, and we don't believe it. There's like this subtle internal conflict, like backtracking there, going back and being like, to lead us to, could indicate a change from a personal knowledge or belief to a statement of neutrality that would be required by someone in his position. As though he like began to say what he actually really feels personally, and he's like, "Oh crap, I'm a detective," and then he backs it up and rephrases his statement to align with what is expected for his job. That was my interpretation of it. Carmen says, okay, I get there is so much bad for this case from the internet, but there are also so many people that know about this case because of the internet. I agree 100%. It goes both ways. But like I say, I think that the easiest way to really fully understand as much as we can is to think about how it would feel like to be the only person dealing with this, to have nobody helping you with this, to be like having this whole thing put on you 100%. It's sitting on your shoulders. And it's a, I don't think that just one person should be assigned to this. I believe there should be multiple people. I think putting the burden on one person is ridiculous. This case is outside the norm. It's not something anybody's dealt with before. All these things that make this case so much different than a quote unquote normal kidnapping. But yet we're going to still assign this out of the norm, unreal, can't believe this is going on, don't know how to handle this case on one person. Like on one person. That's ridiculous to do that. To put everything on Hawkins County and then for Ronnie to say, okay, you're the one that's going to deal with all of this, everything. So this is what the AI said. The conclusion, this is regarding the statement. The conclusion is clear. They haven't found any supporting evidence of abduction or trafficking. While he isn't ruling out abduction, he is clearly leaning away from it based on the evidence or lack thereof. The next statement, the wandering away, the sneaking off to go play or whatever she may have done, that is a viable option. So first of all, we have this or whatever, which we know the same thing as like, I did this and stuff, right? Right. When Candace says and stuff, he's listing off a couple of things, but in his mind, he has like a variety of options here. The wandering away, the sneaking off to go play. There's probably more than that. Like as far as the wandering off theory, maybe she followed an animal. Maybe she saw someone she knew, right? There's this myriad of other options, but he's just going to say, or whatever. But then the portion about a viable option, the choice of viable is interesting because it's not a theory. It's something that they are actively considering. Viable is in like as far as like it's realistically achievable. If something is viable, it's let me think of the word. Logically, it could be successful. Logically, not necessarily based in a speculative situation. So, for example, your car could run out of gas. That's a viable option. It can happen. Absolutely 100%. That is a reasonable thing that could happen because it makes sense. It's common sense. We know that your car, if you don't put gas in it, it's going to run out of gas and it's going to stop working. So running out of gas is a viable option. We know that. So the AI said that this statement tells us that Pruitt is not discounting wandering and in fact may see it as more plausible than other options. This is going to be a common thread. AI is going to continually believe that this is the option that Pruitt is going to go with, the wandering off. The next one he says, quote, "People are probably tired of hearing this. All possibilities are on the table. We are not completely eliminating the abduction idea, but there is nothing to lead us to believe that we need to focus on that alone." First of all, he acknowledges the public frustration and he's completely aware of it. He's 100% aware that people are frustrated. By using all possibilities, it's a classic neutral line. We've heard it a million times. He's not ruling out abduction, but there's no evidence that places that option ahead of others. He's like, my opinion, I think AI finally gets there too, is that he's going with the wandering off theory because it's the most viable, it's the most logical, it makes the most sense. Statistically speaking, it's more likely than not. Not that other stuff couldn't happen, but it is what it is. So the AI decided this statement essentially underlines that abduction is possible but not probable, and it's not their working theory. So I asked it to combine the four that we just talked about with regards to the theories, and this is what it came up with. All four statements align toward a core conclusion. Law enforcement has not found evidence of abduction and considers wandering off to be the more viable explanation, at least based on what they've seen. They do not close the door on trafficking or abduction, but their language, 1, leads toward a local incident, 2, uses cautious, qualified phrasing like probably, viable, 3, grounds reasoning in physical, observable details like her size. There's a deliberate avoidance of definitive language, but Pruitt's word choices and justifications suggest the default working theory may be that Summer wandered away or had some kind of accident close to home, not that she was taken. If you remember from yesterday, where is that? Oh, I didn't put it in there. The statistics, I ran the statistics. How did that go? The 1 in 125 billion, wasn't that right? It was like the probability, how was that worded? That Candace's story, the script, the probability that Candace's story or the script is happened is 1 in 125 billion. Something like that. I'm going to type it just to put, okay. The probability that Candace's story or script happened is 1 in 125 billion. So it's not like they're just blindly leaning towards the wandering off thing. There's reasons that they are, and they're logical, concrete reasons of it. So we have the next statement. We're 9 months in. I would hope that she is still alive somewhere, but we also have to be open to the idea that that is no longer a possibility. So my overall impression, and it is what it is. I can't fudge the data. He's overloaded. He's emotionally burdened. He's quietly determined, but not especially hopeful. There may be some personal blame happening for having not solved the case yet. He is carefully leaning toward the wandering theory, using logical reasoning, the absence or lack of evidence. He says firmly there's no evidence to support abduction or trafficking, but with regards to the wandering theory, he calls it a viable option. Sort of like, we're not focused on one theory, but this option makes more sense. His promises are personal, not for speculative or performance. He does not inflate his job duties or minimize the lack of progress. He's clearly frustrated. He's not trying to spin a narrative or sell a theory. He offers no guarantees. He's not like, I will find her, 100%. He wants to believe there will be a happy ending, but he knows logically that that's not likely to happen. My opinion at the end of the day was he's probably the most transparent member of law enforcement to speak up to this point in time. And my final conclusion was that he's being honest and sincere. It's just that he's frustrated and overwhelmed. That was my final opinion. So I'm going to go back. We're going to go back. and watch his statements again. Now that I've gone through all of this stuff, I want to have us go through that one more time. I'm sighing now. So, keeping all of that in mind, just think about what we just talked about. I want to make this not. It's not going to work. All right, here we go.
Well, today, for the first time, we are learning the lead investigator in the Summer Wells case is speaking out. The pressure has been immense on the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office to figure out what happened to a little girl who reported missing back in June.
Ansley Daniel has been following this case closely. She has an update. Ansley?
Josh and Sarah, there was frustration, some anger, and the presence of a heavy burden when I sat down with the detective John Pruitt with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. He's led this investigation into Summer's disappearance. He told me that as difficult as this case is to work, he is nowhere near giving up.
It was a lot to shoulder, it's a lot to burden. We have a missing child that we haven't found yet.
Almost 10 months and so much heartache. And investigators aren't immune from that hurt. The question of what happened to Summer Wells still has no answer.
There haven't been very many cases like this. I have never worked a missing child case with all these different entities and agencies involved.
The lead investigator on the case says his days are devoted to finding her.
My day, I check tip line and voicemail when I first get here. I do phone calls and follow-ups on any credible leads I've got. I follow up on anything that I didn't get to a good conclusion the day before. Then I go into my normal caseload of any new cases I've got, follow-ups on them.
They've received nearly 2,000 tips.
I will follow up on everything I can to try to bring closure for this.
Self-proclaimed online investigators and social media sleuths have turned this case into a mess of ideas. And tips have come in from everywhere across the U.S. and even overseas. That help, Pruitt says, has led to little more than time wasted.
If these people want to help so much, we always accept applications to certified individuals.
He says the investigation has led to the continued thought that if Summer is found, it will be nearby.
I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by, because we found nothing to lead us to believe that she's been abducted or trafficked out of the area.
Pruitt works alongside the TBI and FBI. Along with the ground search, Pruitt says investigators have poured through data. Almost a year into the case, and Detective Pruitt says it still remains a very active investigation.
I'm not going to let it go cold.
Well, Detective Pruitt assures that what happened to Summer Wells is still being investigated daily. Tonight at 6, he walks us through each day and what it is like for a case that is like no others for all the investigators involved.
Ansley, thanks. And an Amber Alert remains active for Summer Wells. If you have credible information that could help investigators find her, call the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Nearly 10 months and still no answers.
Tonight, News Channel 11 dives deeper into the disappearance of Hawkins County 6-year-old Summer Wells. For the first time, we have heard from the lead investigator with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office.
And tonight he tells us what this investigation looks like right now.
Josh and Sarah, the case of Summer Wells does not look much different today than what it did when I first reported live on authorities searching out in Beech Creek back in June of last year. Now, authorities are spending more time than ever before fielding through false tips as well as false hope.
It's sporadic. One day you might get 5 leads. The next couple of days you might not get anything. But it's been an active investigation that's I've been devoted to since it first occurred.
As Summer's disappearance approaches the 10-month mark, the scenarios of what happened the night of June 15th continue to grow.
The wandering away, sneaking off to go play or whatever she may have done, that is a viable option.
The night she went missing, authorities said she walked away from her house. The following day, an Amber Alert was issued.
People are probably tired of hearing this. All possibilities are on the table. We're not completely eliminating the abduction idea, but there's nothing to lead us to believe that we need to focus on that alone.
In the height of the search, those on the ground combed through miles of tough, rugged terrain, leaving many to wonder how there was no trace of little Summer.
She was like 3 foot, 40 pounds. it would be a lot easier for her to get through some of the foliage. And she's lower to the ground, smaller body, a lot more flexible.
Along with the ground search, Pruitt says investigators have poured through data.
We have gone through reams and reams of data. We've collected statements. We've chased down every credible lead that has been given to us. And we are still not much further along than when we started. Surveillance videos, GPS locations, cell phone tracking, cell phone data, electronic data, anything that we could think of to get our hands on.
As time continues to pass since that June day, it's increasingly hard to hold on to hope.
Well, we're 9 months in. I would hope that she is still alive somewhere, but we also have to be open to the idea that that is no longer a possibility.
Pruitt says that he has never worked a case like this with so many different entities involved, and he says it's still baffling that it looks the same as it did that night that Summer was reported missing. Coming up tonight at 11, we learn more about Summer's family's relationship with law enforcement, especially as her father remains jailed and lawyers are now involved.
Ansley, thanks. And the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Amber Alert for Summer remains active tonight. You can call in credible tips to 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Tonight, News Channel 11 dives deeper into the disappearance of Hawkins County 6-year-old Summer Wells. And for the first time, we're hearing from the...
I'm thinking here. Aurora says, what would statement analysis say about him including out of the area when there's no evidence she was abducted or trafficked out of the area compared to just not abducted or trafficked? I see the statement as a whole is over here. The statement as a whole, I believe that she would probably be somewhere close by because we have found nothing to believe. Then he corrects himself. Nothing to lead us to believe that she has been abducted or trafficked out of the area. I still stand firm that he is going with the wandering off theory. But I would say that he includes the out of the area because of Dawn, and Dawn pushing the narrative that she was abducted and taken far away from home. I'm pretty sure that that's where that came from, without having without having more context surrounding that. I think that it's my opinion that the constant referring back to abduction is because Dawn kept shoving it down everybody's throat. And so law enforcement has to continually bring it back up again and sort of passively, aggressively try to call Dawn out and be like, no, she was not this, she was not that kind of thing.
The lead investigator at the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office in charge of the case. Tonight, he tells us what the Wells family relationship with law enforcement looks like now, as Summer's father remains in jail and lawyers are involved.
In February, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson told News Channel 11 that the Wells family had lawyers and were no longer cooperating. The lead investigator for the case explained how that, as well as how her father's current stint in jail on unrelated charges, hasn't moved this case forward.
The family has attorneys involved, and that is not a direct line of communication.
See, the thing is, so Lilwing says, including the fact that he was talking about that he thinks Summer's close by. Yeah, the thing is, right, if he has made up his mind, which I think he has, I believe 100% that he has made up his mind, that it's the wondering is the way he's going to go. He's going to he's not going to give much consideration any longer to Dawn's far out there theories about people finding her on Facebook and there's some whatever. But if you consider that he is predominantly or 100% going with the walk-off theory, the wandering off theory, then obviously that would mean that she was probably close by. If you remove the abduction, if you remove the abduction trafficking thing, it's not like she'd walk 100,000 miles away. I think that's where he's going without. He's really good to listen to, and he's even better to read when you put it in text, because he's not very good at hiding what he really feels, even though he seems like he is. I think he probably thinks that he's doing a great job covering himself, all bases and stuff, but he's not. He's very easy to read.
That tone is quite the change from what it was last year when Summer was first reported missing.
It was pretty good. We would show up about every day, make sure that they were okay, and had a decent line of communication with them.
About a month later, in July, Child Protective Services removed her 3 older brothers from their home and appointed attorneys to the case.
They have been appointed for other instances, but it bleeds over into this investigation as well.
Summer Wells' father, Don, was arrested late last year for driving under the influence and violating probation.
Going off of that, obviously we know that Don Wells is incarcerated here. Does that play a role at all in this investigation?
No, ma'am.
On February 7th, a judge ordered him to serve the remainder of his 11 months and 29-day sentence in the Hawkins County Jail.
With Mr. Wells, he knows when he first came into the institution, he knows at any time he wants to talk to let their staff know, and I will get to him as quick as I can.
But Pruitt hopes the Wells family knows, despite the other legal troubles, they can reach out anytime.
Communication between me and the family have changed, but I hope that they still understand that they can come talk to me at any time they want to.
You can find all of today's coverage from our interview with Detective Pruitt, as well as more in-depth reports on the search for Summer.
Okay, so I was just looking here, just out of curiosity. I looked this up once before, but I don't remember the answers to this. I was questioning, based on her height, you can take a guess as far as the lengths of strides that she takes. So I was always wondering if she wandered off, how far could she get? And so if we go, let's say that she's been gone for 10 minutes. That's what Donna Candace told 911, that she was gone for 10 minutes. But we're going to be conservative here, and we're going to say 30 minutes. That's about the time it took law enforcement to get there, allegedly. So we're going to do 10 minutes, and then we're going to do 30 minutes. So if she wandered off, how far could she get? How far could she walk at an average pace, at a quick pace, and at a running speed in 10 minutes and 30 minutes? I'm going to have the math it out. I'm going to math this thing out. Realistically, how far she could realistically travel on foot, assuming that she wandered off and wasn't injured or disoriented. And keep in mind, this is going to be, it's going to do its best to try to calculate in the terrain-ish, but it says here if she was walking an average speed in 10 minutes, she'd make it about 400 yards. In 30 minutes, she'd make it 3/4 of a mile, not even a mile. If she was like lightly jogging or walking quickly, in 10 minutes, she'd get about 1/3 of a mile, and in 30 minutes, she'd get around 1 mile away. If she was like full on running, in 10 minutes, she'd get half a mile away, and in 30 minutes, she'd get 1.5 miles away, but you would have to be consistently running that entire time. So it is a hard question to answer, but I don't know. I don't know. Bertie says he was asked about if she could still be alive, and then he commented about still being in the area, etc. The question "still alive" was edited out of the news clip for whatever reason. Didn't he answer that though? Let me go back and look at my notes. Where did that go? He says, "We are 9 months in. I would hope that she is still alive somewhere, but we also have to be open to the idea that that is no longer a possibility." That's what it said. Did he actually say something else somewhere else? Because these are the only 3 videos that I had found where he's talking. Now, if she was missing for like an hour and a half, like if something happened at 5:30, or if something happened at 4:30, obviously she's good. She would get a much a further distance than that. Consistently running would be difficult. Let me scroll back up because I wanted to see here. Where did that go? So Twister said, if it was an accident, they had time to cover it up, and anything associated to it is gone. Yeah, the accident cover-up theory, I think, is law enforcement considers that foul play when they talk about foul play or other foul means or something like that. That's how they word that, if I remember correctly. If abducted, I feel that they had enough time to move her before calling. See, that's the thing is they don't, for whatever reason, they can't keep track of time. I don't know why. I don't understand it. I don't think that she was only gone for 10 minutes and they called the police. I don't believe that at all. I think that they couldn't find her and that there was a waiting period of time. And I think that I think that calling 911 was the last ditch effort in the line of choices. I think that was like the distant end thing that the last resort they had. That was my opinion for the longest time, and it still is. Math and the math. I found the math here that I had done. So I ran the math. I typed in all of the variables that I could from Candace's story about the 2 minutes. Okay, it considered the national statistics for being abducted versus by a stranger versus a non-stranger. It considered the terrain, the location of the house being on a big hill or mountain or whatever, the ruralness of the area, the amount of traffic that goes through there. It considered every single possible thing you could think of. So my question is, after I gave it all this data, I asked it, what's the probability that a complete stranger with no knowledge of Summer or the property abducted her from the remote elevated home in under 40 seconds without being seen or heard and escaped undetected? Now, this is going with, when we watched the video with Chris McDonough, we had her going in the house and the little exchange with the boys and then going downstairs. And based on how long it took Candace to do that, we were only left with 40 seconds, if you recall. And I had to even calculate that if an adult person was coming up the dog trail and then running into the basement, that distance and the time of the person running, and then the distance from the basement door back to the dog trail, and considering carrying a 5-year-old that weighs such and such pounds, I included all of that in there. And so when it was all said and done, it had determined that the probability that this happened the way that Candace described it, okay, it was the final thing. If this was a random, unplanned stranger abduction with no prior knowledge of Summer or the property, it didn't happen. At least not the way that it's been described. It didn't happen. The probability of it happening the way that Candace said is 1 in 125 billion. That's the probability of that occurring the way Candace described it. To put that into perspective, you are 428 times more likely to win the Powerball. You are 12,500 times more likely to be struck by lightning twice, and you're more likely to be killed by an asteroid than for this scenario to happen by random chance. So I think it's pretty safe to say it didn't happen. Not the way that she described it. Didn't happen. Could not have happened that way. Literally, I mathed it. I did the math, and the math is actually mathing this time. The math is actually mathing out. You're more likely to be killed by an asteroid. Okay, so Brady was talking about that it was a separate interview with Pruitt. I only went over the ones that occurred at the end of, let's see, what was the date? April, the beginning of April of 2022, where we're at, finally. If it was something after that, I haven't read it yet, or I haven't transcribed it yet, or I haven't listened to it yet, because I'm going in chronological order so I don't get myself confused. And I'm going to ask again if anybody has written down I talked about this at the very beginning when we started today. If anybody knows the exact dates that searches happened, please let me know, because I don't want to go back and research all of that and write it all down if somebody already did it. Because somebody yesterday was asking when the searches occurred. So there's the searches done by law enforcement, and there, I don't know, mid-scale ish, small scale ish in November of 21, on February 28 and March 1st of 22. There was some EquiSearch stuff in the middle there, some private investigator searching, I think. If anybody knows the dates of those, please let me know. I'd be interested. Somebody else was asking, they'd be interested. So now we're going to go to the district attorney. We've talked about this already. I haven't typed all of this up. I'm not done. I've only done a portion of it. We talked about it a couple of videos ago. Don't remember exactly when we did, but we did. Can't recall when. Twister says, yes, I've done some searching. I know you have. I've seen your videos. I also saw that someone tried to steal your work and present it as if they did the searching by themselves, and I thought that was really messed up, because I know that you did the searching as well. I'm going to leave it there. I hate when somebody wants to be the first and the only. That's ridiculous. Aurora says, big if, there was an abduction, it would be more likely that it was someone who knew the property and knew, or at least knew of the family. Absolutely. Absolutely. If she was abducted from up on top of the hill, someone would have to have been up there before and knew the layout. The thing that catches me, though, is that how would somebody know when she was going to be home, at what time she was going to be there, and where she was going to be, and know that she was not going to be being watched? Like, how would someone know all of that? And if you go off what Dawn says, where she is left outside over and over, right? The boys leave her outside over and over and over. That means that there would have been numerous times prior that this could have happened, and it didn't. But it's like somebody would have to go and sit there every single day from like the time that she gets up until the time she goes to bed, and just sit there and wait for days and days and who knows how long. I mean, you would have to, how would you know all of that? How would you know the timing? I can't. 1 in 125 billion. Plus, you have to remember it's going to take 2 minutes total for all of that to happen. Don't forget the 2 minutes. That's important. Candace said it, so I'm going to use it as fact, because, you know, in statement analysis, you're supposed to believe everything that someone tells you. Well, she said 2 minutes, so I'm going to believe that it took 2 minutes. She never corrected herself. She just stopped saying it. I don't think she's ever come out. I don't think Candace has ever come out and said, no, it was more than 2 minutes, has she? Admitted that she messed it up, or lied, or minimized. I think she might have changed it to that took a little while or whatever. But she said 2 minutes, and if we're going to go with the 2 minutes, yeah, that happened. It was like, I remember the video, and there was an object that was a weird color. I think it might have been pink and plastic or something, red and plastic. That's how I figured it out. I can't recall. I'll have to look. So we are at, she changed it to 5 or 10. That's interesting. Well, the first statement's supposed to be the most reliable to analyze. So we're going to just do that. We're only doing what we're supposed to do. If she messed up, that I don't know why she didn't. If somebody tells you a story a couple days after it happened, that's probably the most vivid memory that that they're going to have. And it isn't until she's Candace publicly changes her story depending on where she's getting criticized at, in my opinion. So we're at Dan Armstrong. I'm going to go look for that video, Twister. We're at Dan Armstrong. And like I say, I haven't typed all this out, but I don't know that I need to. But one thing I want to say is that I want you guys to pay attention to the difference between what we just watched with Pruitt and how we're going to deal with Dan Armstrong. He's going to be sitting behind this big desk. And as we talked about before, he's very kind of like passive, and there's very little to no concern or urgency, and he's just downplaying the Amber Alert. Remember talking about how we were questioning whether or not he even knew the criteria for an Amber Alert, that sort of thing. There's 2 videos here.
The search for missing Summer Wells continues tonight. That's the Hawkins County girl who's now been missing for nearly 10 months.
Tonight, for the first time, we're hearing from District Attorney General Dan Armstrong about his role in the investigation into what happened to the missing 6-year-old Summer Wells.
On the night of June 15th, District Attorney General Armstrong called in the TBI to help with the search efforts for Summer Wells. Now, almost 10 months later and no real developments, this case is unlike anything he's ever worked before.
The sheriff will contact other law enforcement agencies, and but under the way the TBI is set up, I have to make the formal request for the TBI. So the sheriff, when in this particular case, he had called and asked for help from all the agencies, and then called me, and I asked the TBI to get involved.
The long-spanning search for Summer Wells can feel like a blur, but the night of June 15th is clear as day, just as the call to issue an Amber Alert on the 16th.
An Amber Alert is where a child is missing from either the person that's supposed to have legal custody of them or their parents. And so we put out the Amber Alert to alert everybody, including citizens. If you have a cell phone, your phone will go off on Amber Alerts. So you can be on the lookout and help us spot this child if the child happens to show up in your area.
No one has been charged in relation to Summer's disappearance, but that doesn't mean the district attorney isn't involved.
My role basically is just to be an advisor as to any legal issues that may come up during the search, who to talk to, how to go about doing that. I am kept briefed periodically, not every day, but periodically, and just available to provide any legal assistance that I can.
As law enforcement is flooded with tips and the seasons change, small-scale searches have taken place in the Beech Creek area.
We follow leads as they come in. So at this point, you're basically down to just following whatever leads come in and following up, maybe trying to backtrack and do some things you did before to see if anything comes of it.
The most recent ground search back in February didn't bring anything, and right now there isn't another one planned. Coming up tonight at 6, you'll hear more from District Attorney General Armstrong about his role in the investigation and how it impacts the possibility of future charges.
Ansley, thank you. An Amber Alert is still active for Summer Wells tonight. Anyone with credible information that could help the investigators in the case, call the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations at 1-800-TBI-FIND. All right, Mark, thank you very much. Normally, we hear from a district attorney general about prosecutions, but what happens when there's nothing to prosecute?
Tonight, we continue our investigation into finding out what happened to Summer Wells. Ansley Daniels spoke with District Attorney General Dan Armstrong in his first interview about the case and what his role is almost 10 months in when no one has been charged.
On the night of June 15th, District Attorney General Dan Armstrong called in the TBI to help with the search for Summer Wells in the Beech Creek community.
I just want to interrupt for a minute. One of the initial conclusions that the AI came to when I gave it the links for these videos for Dan Armstrong was that it believes that Dan Armstrong is condescending. That's not my words, it's the AI.
Now, as the 10-month mark is approaching, his role is looking ahead to the possibility of charges.
It's a case that has implications of the legal system and the law, but you couldn't classify it right now as there's no criminal charges been filed.
Summer's older brothers were put into CPS custody last July, but no charges have been.
See this desk? You see this huge desk that's separating the reporter from him? That's what I'm talking about, this huge obstruction in the way.
implications of the legal system and the law, but you couldn't classify it right now as there's no criminal charges been filed.
Summer's older brothers were put into CPS custody last July, but no charges have been filed over their removal. However, their father, Don Wells, is serving time in the Hawkins County Jail over DUI and violation of probation charges.
This is a very complicated issue that has been made more complicated by the players in this drama.
No.
Okay, now this statement I've actually done already. The statement here, I just haven't typed it out. It's on my notes. And he says, it's a very complicated issue that has been made more complicated by the players in this drama. He's referring to, let me find my note there. Oh no, I'm not going to be able to find it. Complicated. Okay. The AI thinks that this was a dig, kind of a subtle, passive-aggressive dig at Dawn and Candace. What it says is, it's loaded performative wording, and it tells us something about Armstrong's perception of the people involved, likely Dawn and Candace, possibly others too. Players, the word players suggests people with agency, not just random people that get swept up in it. The word drama suggests behavior that is disruptive, exaggerated, or theatrical. A situation that has been inflamed possibly by lies, emotional outbursts, media presence, or shifting stories, and possibly a lack of cooperation or credibility from those involved. This phrase almost certainly reflects frustration and may even carry a note of disdain. I was like, He does have to feel important. The one thing about it is he's done nothing. He says that he was called in on the 15th, and then he called the TBI, and then the rest of it, he's like, I'm just waiting around. Just let me know if you need something. And you compare that to what we just dealt with Pruitt, and he's the guy doing stuff every single day, all day long, and he has been for years now. But at this point, it's only been 1 year, and you flip over and we look at Dan Armstrong. He's just sitting there kind of lounging out in his chair. It's just an Amber Alert. We issue that, if a child isn't with who they're supposed to be with. No, that's not true. The TBI even said that Summer was in imminent danger of bodily harm or death. But he talks about it all casual, like, no big deal. It is what it is. No, it's not. It's not is what it is.
No one has been arrested or charged in relation to the little girl's disappearance, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen at some point.
We make ourselves available to both the Sheriff's Office and the TBI to advise them.
See, we make ourselves available. Jack of all trades says, I'm thinking his use of drama is a disparaging remark. Absolutely. It is. It's his way to take a jab at all of the stuff going on, like with Dawn getting arrested and things. And then the inclusion of the attorneys that now made it basically impossible to communicate with Dawn and Candace. Because Ronnie even made the little jab about that. I don't think that we've seen that video. Where is that video? The one where he says they have attorneys. He's standing there, he's got sunglasses on, and they're standing underneath like an awning. Maybe we did watch that. Let me take this down for a minute. You guys know what I'm talking about? Oh, I might have taken it out. Where is it? Sorry, I'm looking here. I don't see it. I'm gonna come back over to you guys. There's a video where Ronnie Lawson is on the screen, and he's standing up, like they've caught him coming out of a building or something, and he's underneath an awning, and he's got like a black suit looking thing on. and then really dark sunglasses, and he says something about, yeah, Jack of all trades says Ronnie sort of smirks and his tone is snooty sounding. Yeah, right. Because I clipped it. I remember clipping it because of the way that he said it and how funny it was. I just don't remember where that came from. I don't remember which video that was. Trying to find it. I feel like it was around the same time as Grandma. Skimming. Nope, I don't have it. I don't have it in this playlist. I remember it vividly though, like plain as day. Yeah, the one under the awning, right. But, where is that video? Which one is that? Because I don't remember, and I don't see it in my playlist. I think he wanted to take a jab at Dawn and Candace. I'm looking here. Playlists. We'll go to the whole big, long Summerwell's news video playlist. It's got 215 videos in it. Let's see. I'm scrolling, I'm scrolling. I don't see it. TBI, tip reporting process, EquiSearch comes in. Come on. Let's see. It was around the same time that the search was done. I think, yeah. I'm looking. Hi, D True Crime. Quiet you. D True Crime says it was the first week of March 2022. Right. That's where I'm at. I just don't know which video it is. Gosh, I can see it and I just don't know. Because there's the searching going on. There, maybe this. Is it? Maybe. We'll try this. Sorry, is that loud?
County for day 2 in their planned small-scale search for missing 6-year-old Summer Wells. Thanks for joining us. I'm Casey Marler. March 15th will mark 9 months since family members say they last saw Summer at their Beech Creek community home. News Channel 11's Ansley Daniel joins us live where search efforts are underway. Hi, Ansley.
Hey, Casey. Yes, there are searchers out here from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation as well as the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. I'm told those are the only 2 agencies working this search group today. There are also some canines here as well. Now, this is the command center that was set up back in the height of that search back in June of last year. Now, in an interview this morning, Sheriff Lawson says 9 months later, authorities aren't any closer to finding the missing 5-year-old, but searches like this are just a part of this investigation.
We actually have not stopped
It's this one.
looking for Summer. This is just another part of it that we are looking over some ground we've been on before and maybe some new ground we hadn't covered and just trying to turn up anything we possibly can to find this little girl.
This is the one I'm talking about. It's not in this particular video, but it's in this same I'm gonna call it interview exchange. It looks just like this. This is dated. This would have been March 1st, probably. Yeah, March 1st of 2022. So around here somewhere. I thought it was in with the videos with the grandma. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to see you for a minute. I'm scrolling through here. Killer Looks might have it. Who knows where, though. Shoot. That's the Phil show. I don't see it. I don't see it. I'll have to come back and look. I know that I have it somewhere. What would I have titled that if I clipped it out? No. Gosh, I don't know. I'll have to look. Laura says, yeah, it aired right before the Grandma interview because they told her what Lawson had said and she commented on it. Yeah. Common sense true crime. Okay. Oh, I don't want to get out of this. Where are we at? We're at district attorney. I'm going to take this down for a minute. Common sense true crime. Do you know what it would have been titled? Oh, okay. This didn't age well. Is that what it's called? Oh, there we go. Oh, that's really loud.
Not to help us in our search in the woods and stuff. That is because we know where every searcher is.
805.
You talk about social media. I just laughed. Fell out of her car.
Oh, this, okay. We're at in here. There's still images. 211.
Or do whatever we can to keep her to.
And information.
I mean, it is this video right here. I don't see it. All right, I'm gonna look for it, and then we can come back to that. So we have. Let's take this off. We're gonna finish up Dan Armstrong, and then we're gonna get the who's who. Don writes the letter, if you guys remember the letter from jail, and then we have the 1 year TBI thing coming up. So we'll do that, and I'll look for that while we're waiting. I looked at 211, but he's not talking. I have an idea. Where is this? Wasn't that 6 months later? Think. There we go. Yay. All right, here we go. This video is from, because I haven't done this channel yet. March 1st of 2022. Thumbs up because we don't want to be stingy. People are so stingy with their thumbs up. Hey, Kirst. Okay. Here we go.
Parents. The Hawkins County Sheriff says the child's parents, Don Wells and Candace Bly, are not cooperating in this ongoing investigation.
And is the family still cooperating? I know you said, obviously we know Don's there, but like the mother and all those other people, are they still cooperating?
No, they're not cooperating right now. They have attorneys.
Meanwhile, today marks the second day officials are putting boots back on the ground, searching for answers after Summer's disappearance. You know, yesterday we told you TBI agents and Hawkins County
I don't know why they interrupted him.
deputies were near Summer's home.
I'm going to keep looking, see if I can find the uncut, untalked over video while this plays. Here we go.
Mark, thank you very much. Normally, we hear from a district attorney general about prosecutions, but what happens when there's nothing to prosecute?
Tonight, we continue our investigation into finding out what happened to Summer Wells. Ansley Daniels spoke with District Attorney General Dan Armstrong in his first interview about the case and what his role is almost 10 months in when no one has been charged.
On the night of June 15th, District Attorney General Dan Armstrong called in the TBI to help with the search for Summer Wells in the Beech Creek community. Now, as the 10-month mark is approaching, his role is looking ahead to the possibility of charges.
It's a case that has implications of the legal system and the law, but you couldn't classify it right now as there's no criminal charges been filed.
Summer's older brothers were put into CPS custody last July,
Give me a
but
minute.
no charges have been.
I have to pause this for a minute because I can't hear the one I'm looking at. Okay, I found it. His face. Oh man. That is a face if I've ever seen one. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
And is the family still cooperating? I know you said obviously Don's there, but like the mother and all those other people, are they still cooperating?
No, they're not cooperating right now. They have attorneys.
Look at his face. Let's do it one more time.
Is the family still cooperating? I know you said obviously Don's there, but like the mother and all those other people, are they still cooperating?
No, they're not cooperating right now. They have attorneys.
So this uncomfortable silence. That's so funny. Oh man. Okay. So now I know it's that funny. He's like so upset. I love that he got to take a jab at them. So we've got the who's who. If you guys remember the who's who, she slaps up Tim Mullen's face on that concrete wall. And then we have a brief video about this one letter, that 1-year letter thing, and then we've got the TBI's press conference. Oh, like he wants to leave. I know. He's so upset. Here we go.
And turning now to an Amber Alert that does remain active this morning, as today marks 1 year since Summer Wells disappeared from her Hawkins County home. News Channel 11 has been covering that case since law enforcement first began their search in the Beech Creek community 1 year ago today.
And our coverage not slowing down at all. News Channel 11 will have continuing team coverage all day of what's unfolded since then, including new interviews. But first, before we recount the day, Ansley Daniel walks us through who's who in the Summer Wells case.
No one has been charged in the disappearance of the now 6-year-old little girl. There haven't been any leads and no tangible evidence on her whereabouts. But there are several people involved in Summer's life and now this case that you should know about. First, we have Summer's parents, Don Wells and Candace Bly. Together, they have 3 boys and Summer. Currently, Don is in jail for violating his probation stemming from a DUI charge. He's been on camera the most, but on the other hand, his wife hasn't been on camera much, just once with us and with Dr. Phil and a few times on YouTube. Last July, Child Protective Services removed Summer's older brothers from their home. According to Candace and law enforcement, they were the last to see the little girl. Their grandmother, Candace's mother, was also one of the last to see Summer, spending the entire day with her. This is Rose Bly. She's Summer's aunt and hasn't been seen since 2009 when she went missing from St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. The Wells are Seventh-day Adventist, and they attended a church in Kingsport. Outside of her family, Summer is best known by church members, her Sunday school teacher, Robin Lane, and family friend, David Dotson. After Summer had been missing for several weeks, prayer circles were organized by community members like Timmy Etherton, and some of them were even attended by her family. Also helping the family, a private investigator, Chris Colball with CNC Investigations. Along with that, there's also a media manager. His name is Tim Mullen. Both are local. These people, along with the
The way she does that.
investigator, Chris Colball with CNC Investigations. Along with that, there's also a media manager. His name is Tim Mullen. Both are local. These people, along with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, the TBI, and the FBI, and hundreds of searchers, all have the most vested interest in finding Summer. Here's the area of Hawkins County from where Summer went missing from. You'll notice that there is one main road that runs through the length of the entire county. There's also a river that does this.
Of course, they sure picked the best photos of Candace, Dawn, and Grandma for this. I know, right? I love it. I love this whole video. When I first watched it, I just about can't. I love the layout. I love that she's in like this dark, like basement to, concrete wall sort of environment with like dim lighting, and it's like the light shining on the wall, right? She's got like duct tape up there. She's like mapping it out. All it's missing is like the strings and stuff. But the way that she like slams that picture up there, it just is something else. we're g- we're gonna do it one more time. Gosh, I can't. It's so funny.
First, before we recount the day, Ansley Daniel walks us through who's who in the Summer Wells case.
No one has been charged in the disappearance of the now 6-year-old little girl. There haven't been any leads and no tangible evidence on her whereabouts. But there are several people involved in Summer's life and now this case that you should know about. First, we have Summer's parents, Don Wells and Candace Bly. Together, they have 3 boys and Summer. Currently, Don is in jail for violating his probation stemming from a DUI charge. He's been on camera the most, but on the other hand, his wife hasn't been on camera much, just once with us and with Dr. Phil and a few times on YouTube. Last July, Child Protective Services removed Summer's older brothers from their home. According to Candace and law enforcement, they were the last to see the little girl. Their grandmother, Candace's mother, was also one of the last to see Summer, spending the entire day with her. This is Rose Bly. She's Summer's aunt and hasn't been seen since 2009 when she went missing from St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. The Wells are Seventh-day Adventist, and they attended a church in Kingsport. Outside of her family, Summer is best known by church members, her Sunday school teacher, Robin Lane, and family friend, David Dotson. After Summer had been missing for several weeks, prayer circles were organized by community members like Timmy Etherton, and some of them were even attended by her family. Also helping the family, a private investigator, Chris Colball with CNC Investigations. Along with that, there's also a media manager. His name is Tim Mullen. Both are local. These people, along with the Hawkins County Sheriff,
Yes.
Tim Mullen, both are local.
Look, it's Tim, and he's filming. Oh, jeez. Tim is filming the interview that Dawn did, the one where he's all looking down, all embarrassed because of him being arrested and stuff. Hey, radio gods, it's so funny. This video is just so funny to me.
These people, along with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, the TBI, and the FBI, and hundreds of searchers, all have the most vested interest in finding Summer. Here's the area of Hawkins County from where Summer went missing from. You'll notice that there is one main road that runs through the length of the entire county. There's also a river that does the same. And if it wasn't through the woods, it was through these main roads from where she went missing that connects Beech Creek to anywhere. So how does a child just disappear from an area like this? Well, most think not by accident.
That was News Channel 11's Ansley Daniel.
God, that's one of my most favorite videos. I found it when I was going over Tim's journeys. That's how I found that. It's via Tim's journeys. His real camera and his fake camera. Okay, here we go.
Now, overnight, Summer's father, Don Wells, issued a statement regarding the 1-year mark of his daughter's disappearance. Wells issued the statement through the family's website and YouTube channel. He said in part, quote, "With so many thoughts of people harming you, and I know you want to come home, and there's nothing I can do. I'm powerless," end quote. Now, where Summer is and what exactly happened to her still remains a mystery this morning, 1 year later. Searches.
Hey, Mimi Jean. Okay, so we finally made it. Ugh, we finally made it to 1 year. I can't believe we did it. So we are at June 15th, 2022. Finally. What, you want me to replay this one? With so many thoughts of people harming you, and I know you want to come home, and there's nothing I can do. I wonder if that, I bet I can find that. On Wells' letter 1 year later. Images. There it is. Oh yes, that did you guys remember we were all debating on whether or not Don actually wrote it because it was all like in cursive and stuff, and it was all the handwriting was all fancy. Remember that? And there was this big, huge back and forth about if sorry, let me look here. There's a big back and forth about if oh my god, Tim Mullen wrote that letter. Where is it? Oh, it's into a video. Oh my god, the Summerwell's website. What a nightmare. I'll have to this is interesting. I'll have to write it out. I'll type it out and we can talk about it later on another day after I have some time. Let's do that. God. I know. Because it's really long. Dear Summer, I don't know that I can even read this. This handwriting is really something. There's no way that he wrote this. I'll type it out. I'll transcribe it into text and then we can see it better. I'm not going to do that right now, but I will do it for next time we're here. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. We made it. I know Tim Mullen is something else. So we've made it to 1 year. We've gone over this video. I couldn't tell you how many times. Probably 50. So I'm going to let this play. If there's anything that we need to talk about again, we can stop it and talk about it. If you remember, one of the things that I always made a note of was the one man that comes up and he's like, we haven't eliminated anything, abduction, walk off, or other foul means. And he does that thing with his hands where he's like 1, 2, 3. Remember that part? It's the question and answer that's the most telling. So if there's something we want to analyze, we'll stop and do that. All right, here we go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Leslie Earhart, a public information officer for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Before we get started, I want to stress that the investigation into the disappearance of Summer Wells is very much active and ongoing. Please understand, in order to preserve the integrity of the investigation, we simply can't speak to specifics. We appreciate you being here today and your continuing coverage of this case. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on this day, 1 year ago, Summer Wells, who was 5 years old at the time, was reported missing from her bin in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County. When we held the first media briefing on June 16th, honestly, we expected to have good news to report by the time the next media briefing came around. Unfortunately, instead, day after day ended in frustration and disappointment. At that time, no one expected that we would still be searching for Summer 1 year later. We've said from the beginning that this case is outside the norm. There are few clues as to what happened to Summer, despite investigators doing everything within their power to find answers. All possibilities are still being explored. Many of you have asked for details about what's been done over the last year. I can tell you agents and detectives have spent thousands of hours on this case. Numerous search warrants have been executed, cell phone data has been analyzed, and any other available digital evidence has been collected, searched, and documented. This includes the social media accounts of those associated with Summer. 3 large ground searches have taken place in the last year with the assistance of more than 100 local, state, and federal agencies. Those searches do not account for the numerous targeted searches done by agents and detectives as they were following up on potential leads. From TBI alone, more than 100 agents, intelligence analysts, and support staff from across the state have been involved in this case. TBI agents working alongside the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office and the FBI have conducted nearly 170 interviews during the investigation. That does not count the hundreds of phone calls made to follow up on tips reported to law enforcement. While investigators have been diligently working to find answers, they've had to deal with thousands of tips generated by false information that in some cases has been intentionally spread across social media platforms. We know that this case has attracted the attention of individuals across the country who genuinely care about Summer and want nothing more but to help us find answers. We appreciate those people. However, we are also aware that there are some people using this case for their own personal gain by spreading false information.
I love how she says that. There's some people in my mind, in that very brief like pause, I don't know, 1 or 2 seconds of time, I can hear her brain going through this like laundry list of terrible, horrible names that she's thinking, but she just is, so she's like, people.
Care about Summer and want nothing more but to help us find answers. We appreciate those people. However, we are also aware that there are some people using this case for their own personal gain by spreading false information on social media posts as facts.
Yeah, so there's that, right? There are some people, she acknowledges that there are some people that genuinely want to help. And then there's the mention of those people who intentionally spread false information. Intentionally. Some people, you can tell she's very frustrated about that. It's interesting that she makes such a vivid and clear distinction between the two. I think this is probably the first time that she's actually acknowledged that not everybody is bad. I don't know if she does it again. I don't recall.
Some go as far as to solicit donations. This has had a major impact on the investigation and not in a good way.
So if we were to talk about, let's just say in the past, I don't know, week or 2, 3, just in the past recent time period, the people who have solicited money and donations for themselves and spread misinformation, put out things that don't belong on the internet, that kind of thing, they should understand and be aware that what they're doing has a major impact on the investigation for Summer and not in a good way. I don't understand how, if somebody hears TBI Leslie say that and they are guilty of doing that, why they don't stop it. If they really did care about Summer and finding Summer and being doing the right thing, presenting the information that's factual, that kind of thing, not creating rumors and publicly putting out information that doesn't need to be public, that kind of stuff. Like why would you, after hearing this, why would you continue to do that? Why would you do that to Summer and Summer's case? That she's blatantly said doing that is affecting in a major way, not in a good way, majorly. As a sidebar, it seems as though the whole tagging Summer Wells or putting Summer's name in the title of live streams when someone doesn't talk about her at all is happening again, which is very frustrating to me. I don't like that. If you're making a video and you're not talking about Summer, you don't tag her. If you talk about Summer the first 5 minutes and then you spend the next 2 hours talking about something about yourself or something completely different, don't put Summer's name in the title. Don't do that. Talk about Summer and then stop your stream and make a new stream to talk about yourself. That's my opinion. That's where I stand on that. I won't combine two things together. I just won't do that. Like the day that we were talking about Hayden, I'm not going to combine a video about Hayden into a video about Summer because they don't have anything to do with one another. And they should be separate. They should. But when you're introducing gossip and spreading rumors and talking about who doesn't like you or who does like you or who's streaming you or who's whatever, and then you're soliciting money to help pay your bills or whatever it is that you want, and you put Summer in the title, I don't like that. It just doesn't sit right with me. It makes me feel gross and uncomfortable and secondhand embarrassed. I would never support someone like that. I wouldn't even give them a thumbs up. I don't monetize I don't turn like the ads on my videos. Why? I don't need to do that. I'm not here for the money. Apparently other people are. Maybe it's just me. Makes me so upset. Hashtag Summer Wells and then talk about yourself.
Moving forward, we ask the public not to submit tips as a result of a video they viewed on YouTube or a theory they've seen posted on Facebook. Please help us and only call if you have direct, specific information about the disappearance of Summer. This investigation weighs heavily on us all, and I can promise you that no one wants answers more than we do, and we are not going to stop until we find them. I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Ronnie Lawson.
I'm going to pause this for a minute. I'm going to go back up to that one comment. Hang on just a second. Twister said, she is good at her job. She was an investigator in Sullivan County. TBI Leslie. I think she's a good person too. I think that she has a really hard time separating her own personal feelings and emotions from her job function. There are times when her personal emotions slip out accidentally, and she has to redirect herself back on track to color inside her TBI Leslie lines. When I first came upon TBI Leslie and I was doing statement analysis at the very beginning, I always explained it like this. So when I look at TBI Leslie and I'm listening to her words and I'm transcribing something out or I'm watching her facial movements and behaviors and stuff, there's like two versions. That's why I call her TBI Leslie. There's two versions. There's like regular Leslie, like everyday Leslie, and then there's TBI Leslie. And there's a clear distinction between the two Leslies. And she's supposed to be TBI Leslie when she's talking here or at any media briefing. But occasionally real Leslie kind of comes in and then she's like, oh crap. And she's got to move real Leslie out and bring TBI Leslie back in. You can see it a lot in her face. In one of the press conferences or media briefings, that question that was asked about, do you think that Summer is still alive? And her face just drops and she stares off kind of to the side and at the ground. And you can tell that her brain is going a million miles a minute trying to think of an answer. I believe wholeheartedly that it took everything in her to create a TBI answer and not a Leslie answer. I believe that she's emotionally invested in this, maybe more than she should be, like not in a bad way, but like she's like it's more than just her job at this point. Like it's her mission kind of in a way, personal. It's a personal goal to figure something out. Like she's taking it personally to heart kind of thing. Chris says, it's my opinion, some people just like hearing themselves talk. Yeah, I know. But why hashtag Summer's name? Why do that? And why put Summer's name in the title of a video when you spend 3 hours, you spend like 2 minutes talking about Summer and 3 hours talking about everything else except Summer? Why do that? Why would you do that and not feel bad? I mean, think about it. If somebody came to YouTube, not in our community, just somebody else from the outside, and they're searching Summer Wells and they're looking for legitimate videos, and they stumble upon a creator's video who live streamed something for 2 hours and initially gave out some misinformation or some breaking news, this tip or whatever, and then spends the next, couple of hours talking about how so and so doesn't like them, and basically all the YouTube drama and gossip. Like, how is that benefiting Summer at all? At all. And then in turn, what that does is it makes other creators look bad. Like, people will think that everybody in the community does that. And I don't like that somebody else is creating a negative um, perception of me simply because we exist in the same space. I hate that. I hate that so much. It drives me nuts. It drives me crazy. There are a lot of things that I want to talk about so bad in relation to the community and the stuff that goes on, but I keep my mouth shut. I keep my opinions to myself because it doesn't matter. As far as when we're talking about Summer, all that stuff doesn't matter. None of that matters. And if you continue to feed in the negativity, if you continue to talk about it, it's going to continue to happen. That's just how it is. I try to just offline, I'm very much not impartial. But when I'm here, I try to keep it inside the lines. It is frustrating and it makes me upset when I see it. I immediately give a thumbs down, report it as misinformation, whatever I need to do. Because then at least I can say I tried to do something. Fister says when she worked in Sullivan County, I thought she would go get the ones responsible. I've tried to find someone that really wants to do right. There aren't very many left that want to do right without making a couple of dollars. It's so sad. So sad. Think about there was one day, I think maybe it was in the evening, a couple of years ago, and somebody had come into my chat and super chatted or super chatted me like $200. And I was like, "Oh my god." And I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I had no idea what to do. So I knew that like I didn't want $200 off of Summer or anything really. Uh because I wasn't really talking about anything worth not too much substantial stuff. It was a lot of gossip. And so I immediately turned around and I gifted memberships to the people that were there in the same amount of money. So it like I zeroed myself out, and I mean, what was I going to do? You can't refund a super chat; it's forever. So you know, if somebody gave me $200 and I was like hashtagging Summer's name and talking about something other than Summer, and they gave me $200, if I went and took that money and I spent it on something else, like for myself, I would feel so guilty. I would feel horrible. Like, let's say I took it and went and bought some jewelry. Every time I wore that piece of jewelry, all I would think about is how I used Summer's situation to buy my jewelry. Does that make sense? That's how I see it. And when I look at things, it's a little different if I've done substantial amount of work and somebody super chats me. If I've done a lot of like research or did a lot of work with statement analysis or something, and somebody super chats me like $5 or $10, um, it's I don't view it the same because I actually did some work versus someone who just slaps hashtag Summer Wells and then doesn't do any work other than spread gossip and misinformation. That upsets me so much. If you report the video as misinformation, that's like if you do it on like a computer, a laptop or something, you can actually type in there what you think is wrong, and they'll actually look at that specific one, I think. Karma says there are a handful of creators like you. I know there aren't very many. There aren't very many. I don't make much money anyhow. Like my memberships, I make like $50 at most a month, somewhere between like $20 and $30 and $50 a month. And I know I'm sure there are people in the community that make like hundreds and hundreds of dollars off of her name just by putting her name in the title. Anyway, all right, let's keep going.
Good morning. As Leslie mentioned, we didn't expect this case to be going on a year later. It's heartbreaking to me and my officers and the entire community. We've never stopped looking for Summer. We'll continue to do so. There's never been a case in the history of Hawkins County Sheriff's Office that had officers working 365 days and had so many hours spent as we had in this investigation. Also, this office has never utilized so many different local, state, and federal agencies from across the state. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation assists us in every step of this investigation. As you heard Leslie say, thousands of hours have been invested in finding Summer, thousands of them, 170 interviews have been done. Many of these individuals have spoken to more than one time. While we haven't said a lot about the details about the investigative actions that's taken place, please know that we've never stopped. I deeply appreciate the many rescue squads, the EMAs, and volunteer fire department for their help. And the support of the citizens and the communities of this county is just unbelievable and overwhelming. With the encouragement we get with the food during the searches we've done, and all the law enforcement officers, agencies throughout the state of Tennessee, it's just phenomenal how everybody pitched in and helped us with these searches and with this investigation. And many of you have asked why that we didn't recruit private citizens to assist in these searches. With the extreme dangerous terrain that we were experiencing in searches, we were able to monitor each group and movement in their location. That way we knew that everybody came back to the command post safely. After the initial searches, then we had to go back and obtain the landowner's permission to search again. We could not allow or even grant permission for private individuals on these people's property. And while I can promise you that we will continue to conduct target searches in the Beech Creek area as new information is developed, we'll also continue to follow up on any legitimate leads. And it's been the goal of this team since day one to find Summer. We've never stopped, we've never slowed down, we deal with it every day. And that's the whole purpose of this, to let you all know, despite what you hear, what you see, we haven't stopped. The men and women of these agencies have worked tireless, hours and hours and hours. And I commend every one of them for the job they've done, and we're going to continue till we find Summer.
Now, as I mentioned, we can't speak to specifics, but we will take a few questions.
A few months ago, you guys said that the parents were not cooperating anymore. Has there been any changes in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time. Honestly, doing so does nothing but create more speculation.
I totally forgot about this. Right, so this is June. Ronnie said that they're not cooperating and they've been lawyered up, right? That was at the very beginning of March. And then TBI Leslie comes in. She's like, we can't do that. We can't talk about that.
Now, as I mentioned, we can't speak to specifics, but we will take a few questions.
A few months ago, you guys said that the parents were not cooperating anymore. Has there been any changes in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time.
It's an interesting phrasing. Let me think about how that goes. Question is about whether or not Don and Candace are cooperating. We're not going to characterize. That word is interesting. Characterize. I'm not going to characterize cooperation at this time, honestly. That's an interesting.
Not cooperating anymore. Has there been any changes in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time. Honestly, doing so does nothing but create more speculation.
Huh. Honestly. At this time. Honestly. I should pull this down. Hang on a minute. I'm going to pull this down and get the link and run it to print out part of this so I don't have to type it all. I'm assuming there's a transcript. Honestly, this doesn't nothing. Okay, but thank you for asking. Okay. Let's do this again.
Anymore, has there been any changes in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time. Honestly, doing so does nothing but create more speculation, and it doesn't benefit the investigation. But thank you for asking.
Is there still a reward?
But thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. Hey, wait, what? It says raise the roof, Hawkins County, please. I know. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Like a whole lot. I'm going to type this in. It's an interesting statement. Okay. I wanted to analyze the whole honestly word there and the word characterize. So obviously, she doesn't say yes or no. Because if she were to say, yeah, they are, then that's going to look positive on Dawn and Candace, right? Why would she not confirm? Because before, right, all the times before, they would keep saying the parents are cooperating and they're talking and this, that, the other. But now all of a sudden, she's like, we can't talk about that. Why? All right, so it says the refusal to characterize it suggests that their level of cooperation is either limited, inconsistent, or problematic in some way. It also signals that there is a desire to control narrative access, avoiding accountability for any current friction with the parents. The word honestly is a qualifier often used when someone is trying to assert truthfulness. It is sometimes a red flag in deception language, but here it leans more towards soft persuasion. So the conclusion of this is a deliberate non-answer that suggests law enforcement does not want to publicly defend Dawn and Candace, but also isn't ready to alienate them or make accusatory statements. It keeps all possibilities open, and is fairly transparent. The core answer is non-committal. It's interesting. Okay, Elizabeth, we'll see you.
A few months ago, you guys said that the parents were not cooperating anymore. Has there been any changes in that, especially as Don Wells is incarcerated here in this facility?
We're not going to characterize cooperation at this time. Honestly, doing so does nothing but create more speculation, and it doesn't benefit the investigation. But thank you for asking.
So wait, what says is this news brief prior to Brandon? The situation that I was told, I was told by somebody who probably knows the truth that the situation with Brandon was going on, and it was known for a long time before it actually became public. Like, it was known for a significant period of time. And I feel like I remember them telling me that it was actually uh, the situation had actually began to get noticed before Summer was missing, but just it never got mentioned. It never got talked about. And then it wasn't until, if you remember, when they charged him, they put the charges in and arrested him, and and then pleaded him out all in the same day. Do you remember how that worked? And so all the investigation and everything was actually going on for some period of time, substantial period of time. And then when they finally decided to charge him, they charged him and pleaded him out all on the same day. So it was like they were able to function off the record for that entire time because of the way that they did that. Remember how that worked out? Yeah. But I don't remember the dates exactly specifically. Let's see, October 2022, I think is when it was. So it hasn't happened yet, but it was really going on at this time. It's just it wasn't public until October of this year that this happened.
Is there still a reward being offered if any information or summer is found?
Well, I can tell you that law enforcement did not coordinate that reward, so you would need to reach out to the Churchill Rescue Squad for information in that aspect.
Are the boys still in DC's custody?
That's not something we can speak to.
We do know that last year you guys pushed out some information about the red truck. I know that this is on here, but just so we, can talk about it with you guys. Is that still something you're looking for? Do you still want people to submit tips, or is that over and we're just not looking for the red truck anymore?
I'm going to call on TBI Special Agent in Charge, Derek Newport, just to talk about that and where that stands.
I would tell you yes, just to eliminate. We still don't have a good timeline of when that was observed. People that frequent areas on a regular basis can get days mixed up. We still want to figure out who, if possible, and if that's even a legitimate lead. So as she said earlier, we followed a lot of dead leads that didn't produce anything. So that obviously is still something we want to put to bed, but it's not. We still can't pinpoint a date and an exact location of that truck.
Anybody else?
When this first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. That was like one of the initial reports that night. And then things kind of changed the following days. There's any evidence that she walked away from home, or any evidence leading toward an abduction, or do we have any evidence of anything that night otherwise?
We don't have anything specific.
That was a really long question. We don't have anything specific. I don't know if you guys could hear her, but
We still can't pinpoint a date.
she says that, Twister says, I feel like they have a mess and don't know how to clean it up. Yeah, absolutely they do. So the question is about, at first she said she was last seen outside the home.
An exact location.
When this first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her.
So the reporter is Ansley Daniel. She said, well, initially you said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home.
That was like one of the initial.
Oh.
This first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. When this first
I
came
remember
out,
this. I remember going over this one. You guys remember going over this? You watch TBI Leslie's head. Okay? Watch TBI Leslie's head as this question is being read out.
Anybody else?
Ready?
when this first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. That was like.
Nope. Nope. Sarah shake her head. Nope. So the question is, when this first happened, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. And as that portion of the question is completed, TBI Leslie's shaking her head no. Nope. Yeah, you did. You totally did. Said she was last seen outside of her home. Ronnie Lawson said she was last seen out walking away. I mean, that was the whole story to begin with.
Anybody else?
When this first came out, you guys said that Summer was last seen walking away from her home. That was like one of the initial reports that night. And then things kind of changed the following days. There's any evidence that she walked away?
And then she says that, and then things kind of changed the following day. Is there any evidence
From home,
that she walked away from her home, or any evidence leading towards an abduction?
Of anything that night otherwise?
We don't have anything specific. And I think what's important to note there is that the sheriff mentioned how many hours we've put into this investigation and how much time has been spent exploring every possibility, walk off, abduction.
See, I believe that it was, if you remember, it was on, let me pull up my notebook here. Gosh, I really need to like put tabs in this so I can figure out where stuff is. It goes, that's the next thing I know. On the 15th, on June 15th, the day that she goes missing, Ronnie said that she was last seen walking away from her home. And then on the 16th of June, TBI Leslie said that she was last seen outside of her home. She was last seen outside of her home. Family reported her missing at 6:30. So TBI Leslie said. And then Ronnie Lawson also said in that she's 5 years old and she left the house, and evidently she got a little further than they expected. And then the next day, on the 17th, it turns into the circumstances remain unclear. The circumstances surrounding Summer's disappearance remain unclear. What time did she go missing? That time is varied because they were searching for their child themselves. And then, she was just gone. Circumstances remain unclear. And then we get to June 21. And it says, they changed it. We want to reiterate that the circumstances leading to Summer's disappearance remain unclear. Leading to. And then I believe that it stayed that way. I don't think it's ever changed. Rather than surrounding, it's leading to.
Other foul means. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind is it's still really wide open as to the what. We try to stay away from developing theories and just follow facts.
You mentioned that you're continuing to look at this case every day. Are there more searches planned as we're approaching the summer months?
No specific plan. However, if we get specific information about a specific location, building, what have you, we will coordinate with each other to go take a look at that location. What made it hard back in the summer is obviously the foliage. That's why you saw the 2 searches that were when the leaves were on the ground, so that we could use air assets and that you could actually see more of what's on the ground at the time. And people say, well, leaves to cover things up. Well, moving things around enough, you'll see what you're looking for.
In the past, you said that there's no evidence that there was an abduction. Does that still stand?
It still stands.
Do the facts point towards one theory more than another?
No, they do not. Not at this point.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I just want to point out one more thing. This case is not cold. We get asked that a lot. It's not. We're talking to the sheriff constantly. We all work together as one team, and we're determined to find answers. Thank you for coming.
So there's that. Let's see where we're at. Thumbs up. Thumbs it up. Okay, we're at the end of my playlist because it's the end of the 1 year mark. So the upcoming plan is I'm going to attempt to transcribe the letter from Dawn. I don't think that we really need to go back over Dan Armstrong. The last question. She just said that she wanted to offer up information, I think.
Time has been spent exploring every possibility, walk-off, abduction, other foul means. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind is it's still really wide open as to the what. We try to stay away from developing theories and just follow facts.
You mentioned that you're continuing to look at this case every day. Are there more searches planned as we're approaching the summer months?
No specific plan. However, if we get specific information about a specific location, building, what have you.
Just the question was about if there's any additional searches planned.
We will coordinate with each other to go take a look at that location. What made it hard back in the summer is obviously the foliage. That's why you saw the 2 searches that were when the leaves were on the ground, so that we could use air assets and that you could actually see more of what's on the ground at the time. And people say, well, leaves to cover things up. Well, moving things around enough, you'll see what you're looking for.
In the past, you said that there's no evidence that there was an abduction. Does that still stand?
In the past, you said there's no evidence of abduction. Does that still stand?
It still stands.
Yep.
Do the facts point towards one theory more than another?
No, they do not.
Do the facts point towards one theory more than the other? No, they do not.
Not at this point.
thank you guys for being here. I just want to point out one more thing. This case is not cold. We get asked that a lot. It's not. We're talking to the sheriff constantly. We all work together as one team, and we're determined to find answers. Thank you for coming.
I used to have a copy of the printout that they handed out during this, but I don't know what I did with it. I had like a digital copy. Okay, so I cannot find the search dates anywhere other than those three, like the main one, and then at the end of November of 21, and then the beginning of March of 22. Those are the only ones that I can find. I know that there's more than that, but I think that they were like small scale ones. So I don't know. Do you guys want me to play the loop before we go? I will work on typing up the letter, and then we'll see what's coming up news-wise, and I'll attempt to try to find the search dates. I don't know if I can. We'll go from there. Does that sound like a plan? I hope so. All right, let me add this in. Loop it is. Okay. Let me take this off. Get it out of the way. All right. I love you guys. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we were working this out. I feel like we've done a lot. If you're on the replay, I'm glad you made it this far. And if you guys see anything that I missed for the statement analysis stuff, let me know. Okay. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Why is it doing that? What is
It's lightning, baby.
oh.
Let's not forget why we're here. Summer Wells, she's the one that brought us all together. I know all of you because of her. We won't stop searching. We won't give up. We're going to keep on going. I think we're all on a mission. So please be kind to one another, because you never know. No one is immune from tragedy, no matter who you are. So just remember, what do you want your legacy to be when you leave this life? I love all of you, and I'm so glad you guys are here.
Whatever it is, Brandon, that, whatever reason why you possibly wanted to leave, I wish you just at least let us know that you're okay, because we're horribly worried about you. This is all, anything you might be feeling, feelings are temporary and fleeting like the wind, right? You feel it go by you, but you are not your feelings.
I promised my husband and daughter that I would do everything in my power to get them justice, and that's just what I have to do.
I hope everybody having a good day. Hope everybody accomplished something significant. Even if you didn't accomplish anything significant, don't be discouraged. Just aim to accomplish something significant tomorrow and the next day, and so on. If anybody's going through anything, I hope and I pray that you get through it, and just know that you do have the strength to get through whatever the fuck you're going through, no matter what it is.